The opioid crisis. Since 1999, more than 1 million people have overdosed in the United States, and 75% of the deaths in 2021 involved opioid. Every 25 minutes in the United States, a child is born with opioid withdrawal, and the US government estimates that the cost of opioid abuse is $1 trillion. It's with good reason. It's opioids is called the stuff of the devil. My thesis question is, what main factors have contributed to the opioid crisis in the United States, and 25 years later since it started, are they making progress to fix it? An opioid crisis, it doesn't just happen. There is always someone behind it, someone to blame. And in this case, it's Sackler and Purdue. This is Arthur Sackler. He died in 1987, and the Sacklers inherited Purdue Frederick and a whole lot of other companies. But it turns out Arthur Sackler was actually in debt, so the Sacklers had to make money to. Yeah. And the brain behind the opioid crisis, the devil behind it, is Richard Sackler. He knew MC Cotton, which was a drug they produced, and it's basically a cell around morphine, which is an opioid. So when you take the pill, the chemicals inside it goes slowly and continuously into your bloodstream for a long period of time. But that wouldn't make them billions of dollars, because it was only prescribed to people with cancer and people with serious pain. So they had to figure out something new. They had to produce a new drug. So they found out that oxycodone, not many people know anything about it really. So it's an opioid, a whole lot stronger than morphine. So they used the same cotton system in oxycodone, and their plan was to prescribe it for moderate pain to the worst possible pain you could possibly imagine. And yeah, it was a small target group for MC Cotton. It was only prescribed from 8 to 10 pain level. So they would get a bigger target group if they used oxycodone. And Oxycontin, yeah, they wouldn't get the FDA approval for this because, of course, it's a whole lot stronger than morphine, and morphine is given to an 8 to 10 pain level. So they had no evidence to back up that it could be prescribed for moderate pain. So what they did was get an FDA doctor, Curtis Wright, to then work closely with him to get the FDA approval. Yeah, so they faked the FDA approval with lying for and saying for low dose patient the drug is not addictive, and the delayed absorption of the drug is believed to reduce the abuse liability of the drug. So they would eventually get the FDA approval in 1995. A big factor in the opioid crisis is misleading marketing. They wanted to humanize the idea of selling pills with using strong words in their marketing, like "I got my life back." They would also pay doctors to prescribe the drug more often. They weren't always successful with this, because there were many doctors who knew opioid and was suspicious about the drug. So what they did was look for doctors who prescribed the drug often, or opioids often, or doctors who didn't know anything about it. So all of a sudden, it was now a growing pandemic of pain. Purdue really got people thinking, um, now I have pain, I have to get medication. And before it was like, pain is good for you. Um, so they basically changed people's idea of pain. And now that many people were on the drug, more people started to behave like drug addicts and act like drug addicts. So, in a case report from a man who later started to work for Purdue Pharma, uh, uh, it said pseudo addictive is when a person acts and behaves like a drug addict, but they are not really drug addicts because they're in so much pain. So you gotta up the dose of medication. And here is an example of a marketing from Purdue Pharma. I can't get the video up, but you have to listen.
Found the right doctor and have told him or her about your pain. Don't be afraid to take what they give you. Often, it will be an opioid medication. Some patients may be afraid of taking opioids because they're perceived as too strong or addictive. But that is far from actual fact. Less than 1% of patients taking opioids actually become addicted. And any drowsiness that might occur when you start to take the medication will soon wear off in most patients.
So they lied to get more people on medication, of course. It's another example. It's a doctor here called Lynn Webster. If we get this working. Yes, this is Lynn Webster, and he owns uh, um, a clinic called CRI Lifetree. And in this clinic alone, it was 100 overdose cases because in this clinic he would often prescribe too much medication, too much painkillers. So they are responsible and suspected for 100 overdose cases. Johnson & Johnson is also a kingpin in the opioid crisis. Purdue Pharma started to run out of opioids, so they needed more people to produce opioids. So Johnson & Johnson would not only sell their opioids but also supply Purdue Pharma and other opioid manufacturers. So in Tasmania, Johnson & Johnson would offer farmers big prices if they switch from potatoes to opioids, like with prices like BMWs and Mercedes and luxury vacations. And soon, over 74,000 acres were now opioid fields. And Johnson & Johnson got free access to the American market, where they would market their their products with, for instance, words like finding relief. Now, 25 years later, are they making any progress? No, they're not. It's only gotten worse. This is a statistic, and they are not making any progress. Is anyone sentenced? No, not the big producers, not Purdue Pharma. They had to pay the U.S. government $6 billion, but the Sackler family is worth $15 billion. So they have still made billions of dollars for because of the opioid crisis. And Johnson & Johnson, who is worth $360 billion, had to pay the US government $2.2 billion. So, yeah, I didn't have time to go in depth. I skipped a few years, but I got the general information. And I watched Crime of the Century on HBO Max. and Painkiller on Netflix, and then made my manuscript. So thank you for your time.